Let's hear from Samuel Ciszuk, a Middle East energy analyst at IHS Energy. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning. Can I just ask you where you think oil is at the moment? Is the market sort of just holding back? We've heard dreadful predictions about global growth. Is there any cause for optimism as far as the oil price is concerned?
Well, I mean, I think this is a question, and I think this is why we kind of have the sense that the market is maybe a bit, not knowing the direction to go, because the last numbers that came in from Asia were still relatively strong on demand. Of course, in the Western Hemisphere, there are some serious causes for concern over demand growth in the future, maybe demand destruction.
Now, the OPEC Secretary General is speaking in Dubai, as I said, later today. What do you expect Mr. El-Badri to say?
Well, to be honest, I think a lot of people maybe see, his room for manoeuvre not being the really biggest. Firstly, there are some, question marks about his sort of own position vis-à-vis the new government in Libya. He's a Libyan, and of course, some people there see him as the old regime's man. To what extent? Well, we don't really know. It's a bit of a question mark, and that would probably clip his wings to some extent.
But when you talk about the room for manoeuvre, are we looking about increasing output? Are we looking about controlling the price rise? What sort of things are we talking about here?
Sort of Secretary General of OPEC always have sort of limited room to actually do anything like that. That is a oil minister decision which they do at meetings, and in that sense he kind of more moderates perhaps and sort of tries to make sure that the dialogue is flowing, and that in itself would be quite a tough decision. It was a tough objective, because of course the OPEC members were quite well, I mean, the dialogue broke down, to be honest, in June.
That was back in June, wasn't it? And so you've got on one side countries like Saudi Arabia, other side Algeria. What are the tensions in OPEC at the moment? Just how cohesive is it as an organisation?
Well, right now it doesn't seem to be very cohesive at all. But OPEC has sort of swung from being very dysfunctional to being very functional many times during its history. So I don't think OPEC is dead. But right now I think the owners will be, from other members' perspective, on Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and UAE to withdraw the crude they unilaterally put out there before the rest of the organisation would do anything.
Because
anyway.
Saudi has been pumping a lot more oil than its poachers are meant to say.
Exactly, and everybody else will expect them to pull that back first before everybody else starts pulling back.
What about Libyan oil? When is that likely to come back to the market, and at what stage will it come back at full strength?
Well, again, it seems it's slightly early to say. There's been a lot of positive, some good reasons for optimism when we look at sort of the extent of damage the war has sort of wreaked on installations. Doesn't seem to be that bad. Saying that, I think a full return of Libyan crude volumes will take some time.
Brent crude there, we got it on the screen, is $111 a barrel. A Citigroup analyst last week spoke of crude looking, and I quote, like a coiled spring, suggesting a really positive correction is looking likely, notably for Brent, which obviously will pull up the rest of the oil market. Is that a sentiment you share? Do you think that oil prices are going to rise quite significantly over the coming months, or do you think because of the demand, because of the growth problems, it's going to still be subdued?
Well, I think, it's not my role really to sort of forecast the prices in that extent, but I think, we're kind of looking at a market which still wants to see some more guidance from where demand is going in different parts of the world and how much it's growing or falling. And then I think with Libya, right now, some cause for optimism, but the market is really waiting to actually see the volumes hit the market, and that might take more than most of next year, actually.
Okay, Samuel Ciszuk, really good to talk to you. Thanks very much for joining us here on Bloomberg today.